You're tuning in to the J Blast Network. Oh yeah, welcome to the next level. Christmas time, a time for joy, cheer, and holiday spirit, and a time to dream. Dream about presents that Santa will bring under your Christmas tree. Santa is real. Don't argue me on that. Anyway, sometimes you dream wonderful dreams, so good you don't want to wake up. And sometimes you'll have terrifying nightmares that rob you of your sleep. And sometimes you may not even know what you're dreaming about. However, there is one thing that we will all see in our dreams. The purple jester who fights the nightmares that haunt us every night. Knights. Now, some of you might be asking, who is Knights? Well, we gotta go back to 1996 on the Sega Saturn, when Sonic Team was experimenting with new ideas. Yuji Naka and Takashi Iizuka, previously known for being the big figureheads on the Sonic franchise, wanted to make a game that would play on the idea of dreams. Not just a game that took place in dreams, but a game that would itself represent what dreams were. Would as abstract as dreams could be, this would be a challenge, but after looking more into dreams and asking the rest of the development team of their dreams and looking into their own dreams, I said dreams a lot, they finally came up with an idea. Enter Knights into Dreams, a game about flying around in the sleeping minds of two young children. I know that sounds kind of weird, but stay with me because it's going to make a lot of sense as we progress. Essentially, the point of all this was to wonder why we dream the way we do and how it relates to what we're going through. The boy and the girl, Elliot and Clarice, respectively, would start to have nightmares over their own self-doubt, and Knights would be the one to stop it. Now, how does this all relate to Christmas? Well, what if I told you all of these things, and also the Christmas level, makes Knights a Christmas game? And not just a Christmas game, but probably the game that represents Christmas the best. Hi, I'm Jay, and you're tuning in to the J Blast Network as we celebrate the festive season and go back to 1996 to find out the holiday spirit in this Christmas special. Welcome to the world of Knights into Dreams. Before we get into the Christmas aspect and even some of the story aspects, it's important to discuss what Knights was trying to do, and in order to cover that, we need to cover the game on its own first. The gameplay of Knights is a bit unorthodox. It can be hard to explain, or hard to get the grasp of at first, which can turn some people away, but I urge those who are turned off to please try to understand because what's there is actually really brilliant. In simple terms, you fly around a map and collect orbs before time limit runs out. That's the basic premise, but there's more to that system. You see, every level starts out with one of the two kids, Clarice or Elliot, and you get your idiot stolen, except for the red idiot, which represents courage. With the red idiot, you are able to free and dualize with Knights, which begins your flight. From there, you have to collect 20 blue chips in order to break the idiot capture and get your idiot back. Along the way, you'll fly around rings and use different gimmicks depending on the level, which all gives you points. Rack up a lot of points before completing the section and you'll gain a higher rank for that section. All the sections are ranked. However, there is a risk, as if the timer runs out, you will lose all of your points and undualize with Knights until you get back to the idiot capture and redualize. And while you're trying to get back there, there will be a clock that chases you and tries to capture you until you dualize with Knights. And if it does get you, then it's game over. And when you return to the idiot capture after losing Knights, you'll have no points and you'll receive an F ranking for that section. So there is a risk once you break the idiot prison. So you have to ask yourself, do I turn in the points or loop around the section before returning the idiot? However, some sections can be very long, giving you less time to allocate for points. Each level or dream has 4 sections, and in each of these sections lies a different idiot. Once completing these sections, your rankings will average and you'll be taken to the boss. You're also under a time limit here, And instead of losing health when you're hit, you lose time, which also happens if you get hit by an enemy in the regular dream. However, running out of time here will give you a game over and you have to restart that entire dream again. Oh, and you can do aerial tricks with knights, like a parry loop, which can also take out enemies, or you can just spin into them to defeat them. And there are trick rings in which you can combo tricks in order to get a higher score. All of this gives knights this fun, addicting, arcade-like feel once you understand it. And it's where the most enjoyment comes from as you get better at the stages and find new paths and faster routes to achieve a higher score. This is that arcade feel Sega had back then with almost every game that they had made. Even today, they still make games like this with this addicting arcade feel to its gameplay, even if it is short, which arcade games are short too. Those type of games do make you want to go back and replay it and do better and get a higher ranking. Now you might be wondering about the surroundings of the game, like what are the idea? Why is Knights trapped? And what are the meaning of these dreams? And this is where Night goes from being just a cool arcade style game to an artistic masterpiece. Knights not only manages to have phenomenal gameplay, but also great lore to establish this universe. The only issue is that it's not directly said in the game. Rather, in that classic retro game fashion, it was all in the manual, or something that was to be interpreted. But let's start from the beginning. Both Claris and Elliot struggle with self-doubt in their abilities. Claris being afraid of her singing ability and if she will impress the judges, and Elliot is afraid of letting his basketball team down by not being good enough to compete. Both children have nightmares of these scenarios in the worst possible way. In order to escape them, they head to Nightopia, where they meet Knights, and this is where the gameplay begins. Having all of the idiots stolen except courage, which gives them the courage to fight back against the Nightmarians, they dualize with Knights in order to fight back. Now let's go over something of the dream. The first being the idiot. Each idiot represents a part of you that drives your motivation. The red idiot represents courage, the white idiot represents purity, the blue idiot represents intelligence, the green idiot represents wisdom or growth, and the yellow idiot represents hope. Without these idia, humans would fall into despair and give in to their nightmares. Hence the nightmares want to take your idia. But the one they can't take easily from you is always the idia of courage. That courage is what gives you the strength to fight back against the Nightmarians with Knights and regain the idia that was stolen from you. This applies to the struggles that Claris and Elliot go through. Each idia represents something that they are lacking in their daily lives, especially courage, as they are afraid of the failure that can come to them. Levels have also represented the struggle that Chris and Elliot go through. The developers looked into why we dream the dreams that we do so. Each world is born from the feeling that Claris and Elliot have. Spring Valley, the ideal, is a luscious windy mountain region with spring water that welcomes the player into the strange world of Nightopia. This comforting welcome represents the comfort of a parent, specifically a father in Claris' case. Even the theme of the dream is titled Parental Home. Versa Splash Garden, the Affection, is a tropical seaside park with secrets underwater. This comforting beach represents the affection of a mother, specifically Elliot's. As we continue, the thought behind the creation of these dreams would differ for the two characters. Let's start out with Claris' Mystic Forest, the Possibility. It's a deep, lost woods covered by fog where many ruins and unknown possibilities lie. This represents Claris' inquiry of the world, a world that she is still learning much of, much like how we still learn what lies beneath the fog of the forest as we progress. Claris' last unique dream is Soft Museum, the Confusion. It's a European-style museum with many reflecting mirrors and corridors, representing Claris' struggle with growing into a woman and her struggle with becoming the singer she wants to be. Going back to Elliot, his second dream is Frozen Bell, the Consciousness. It's a snowy mountain with a train built around it, with many steep slopes. You can even ride the train as Elliot. This dream is supposed to reflect Elliot's past, which we don't know much of, but maybe it was similar to his previous home. This is my favorite dream for its aesthetic and music. and kind of serves as the second Christmas level. Even the music is kind of Christmassy. And finally, Elliot's third dream is Stick Canyon, the Revival. This is a desert full of machines that are mechanized in the harsh terrain. There are even machines Knights can interact with, including the Calipo Coaster and a giant electric tower. This dream is supposed to represent Elliot growing up, which is why we see the desert being mechanized. It comes into question whether it's good for the environment or not. However, I think it more reflects the complications of growing up. Yes, more opportunities come your way, but at the same time, you lose some of that innocence that you once had. As you can see, a lot of thought went into these levels and how they reflect dreams, and not just making a variety of environments for the sake of it. Even the standard environments, such as a desert or snow, there is always some catch to that dream that makes it feel like a dream. Like, notice how every level, if you go up, there is land above, and if you go down, there's land below you. Some Sega veterans might remember a level that Sonic Team made in the past called Collision Chaos that did this exact same thing to add confusion to the world. We don't control our dreams, rather they form from the thoughts around us, and that was the philosophy when designing these dreams. Anything can happen, but it will always be tied to a reason.
Once we decided to go with a dream world, what we wanted to do was something that wouldn't just be some kind of fantastical dream, but more representative of actual dreams that people might have at night. I read a lot of books and other literature about dreams and the deep psyche in order to learn how to faithfully create an actual dream. There are a lot of books out there by experts. The primary foundation I used was the work of Carl Jung, but I referenced the works of several people who had done proper scientific research on the topic of dreams in order to construct the dream world and also the characters that appear in those dreams.
Before we head into the final dream, we need to look at the concept of Knights as a whole. I know I talked about Clarice and Elliot a lot, but they are just as important to what Knights is as a whole. You see, Knights itself is a concept. In order to understand that, we need to cover the backstory and creation of Knights. Knights is a Nightmarian created from Wiseman, who is the final boss of the game, and the ruler of nightmares. What sets Knights apart from the majority of other Nightmares is that Knights has free will, so in turn, Knights wants to use that free will to explore dreams and ignore what its creator wants it to do. This is why Knights is locked up as the only Nightmarian that won't obey Wiseman's rule. This free will is important because the combination of free will and the idiot of courage is what drives the dualization of Knights in the player. When dualized, Knights becomes whatever the player is, whether that be a boy or a girl or somewhere in between. This is because when we dream, we see ourselves as we are in the real world, even if something has changed about us. So although Knights itself has no relation to gender, it can be bound by those who dualize in the dream with Knights. Now, this doesn't change Knights' body or anything, but it adds the person to Knights as they work together to fight off the nightmares that haunt the dreams. Knights can also transform into different shapes and objects. Again, going into that free will I talked about earlier, Knights can literally become anything it wants to satisfy its needs. Knights is a bit selfish. The kids are the way of freeing them, which is a part of Nightmarian traits that Knights is selfish, and that came with Knight's birth, but despite this, it managed to do the right thing and helps the player. This was planned when designing Knights. The developers of Sonic Team wanted Knights to be something that you can find when you dream. It's why Knight's design is open to interpretation, so you could see yourself in its shoes, or in this case, its jester garb. Really genius how much thought went into this arcade style game.
The character of Knights represents what's known in psychology as the shadow, which is sort of an alter self. When a man dreams, he'd see his alter self as male, and when a woman dreams, she'd naturally see her alter self as female. In creating Knights, we wanted a character that could conceivably look both male or female, and so that's why we went with a gender-neutral character.
Let's now move on to the Nightmarian guards you face. Most don't have much meaning, but an obstacle that stands in your way, like the dragon Gillwing or the giant ball Puffy. They are all unorthodox takes on different creatures like dragons and cats. However, the most important ones are Jackal and Riala, mostly Riala. These are both the main siblings of knights, and they both serve Wiseman. However, Jackal is a failed first level Nightmarian, put him on the same level as regular Nightmarians when it comes to intelligence and will. His cards can give some trouble, though even at his low intelligence level, he has a more sadistic side. Riala, however, well, I'll just let it introduce itself to you instead. Riala is the main rival of knights, even sporting a similar design and physiques, but instead of being more playful, Riala is more cruel. Riala is the one who has been trapping knights in the idiot cages this entire time, so the rivalry was made on more than just design. Riala fights the exact same way as knights, so they both will try to pair with each other to do damage. This fight isn't hard, but the intro, the music, and the stage, and Riala itself makes this fight so iconic. After beating each dream, the last dream will unlock, which is shared by Claris and Elliot. Before getting into that, there is one more unique mechanic that was added to the game that we need to discuss. Around the stages, you may have noticed some little Nightopians roaming around and behaving differently in different levels. These little critters are actually interactable and affect the tone of the stage. You can help them grow and protect them by fighting off Nightmarians, which will make the tone happier in the dream, or you can hurt and even kill them. Damn, that guy got iced. This makes the tone of the stage more depressing, and eventually Nightopians will stop spawning altogether. The tone changing just changes the music of the dream with 3 different alternative tracks from the original song. I wouldn't say one song really screams it's more positive or negative than the other, but I do like the alternative takes on the tracks. Nightopians aren't the only creature you can take care of though, as Mepians, a fusion of Nightopians and Nightmarians, also come into play. You can make these guys, and there's a chance that they will be hostile, but they function similarly to Nightopians, and treating them a certain way affects them with the stage as well. The A-Life system may not be something most players would think about when playing, and they'll probably screw themselves out of it by accident, but it was another addition to the replay value of these dreams, encouraging you to explore the dreams with caution as you take care of these critters. If the A-Life system sounds familiar, then you might be a fan of Sonic Adventure, because this was the foundation for what would eventually become the Chow Garden. It's interesting seeing the origins of such a unique system that would garner its own fan base separate from its original game. But this is a Knights video, and we can talk about Sonic Adventure and its connection to Knights another time. For now, let's head back to the main story where we reach the end of the game, Twin Seeds, the Growth. Twin Seeds is the final dream of Knights, and it's shared by both Elliot and Claris. You may have noticed that this is the same town that both kids live in, which is going to be important for what's about to happen. This is the one time where we can't free Knights because Wiseman is finally taking direct action. The only way to defeat the King of Nightmares is to take a leap of fate. This is Twin Seeds, the Growth, the final showing of what Elliot and Claris have learned over the journey. Because they are now able to overcome their own fears with the help of Knights, they finally believe in themselves enough to fight back the influence of the ultimate nightmare and fly on their own, now being able to save Knights on their own instead of being saved by Knights. Elliot and Claris have truly grown from their insecurities. They're also saving their city, as if Wiseman succeeds with his plans, he would take over the real world and cover it in the darkness of nightmares. But his biggest weakness are the people who fight against the nightmares, or in this case, grow stronger than the nightmares that haunt their ambitions. The theme even reflects on this with the title, Growing Wings. Once Clarence or Elliot reaches Knights, the other kid will come and they will both free Knights and begin the final battle against Wiseman. Both dualize with Knights as you control 2 Knights to fight Wiseman. Wiseman will manipulate the weather and atmosphere, sending us to space and shooting tornadoes and fireballs. He's truly flexing his control over the Dream Realm, but with the growth of Clarence, Elliot, and Knights itself, Wiseman will be overcome. Though both kids were able to overcome their nightmares by beating Wiseman, it comes at the cost of Knights, who, since being a creation of Wiseman, ceases to exist on his defeat. But this was a part of Knight's free will and the kindness that its Nightmaren siblings lacked. To the end of its life, Knights lived by its own rules despite the consequences. It's sad to see Knights go, but in a way, it was a final message to the kids on how they should live their life. Free from nightmares that haunt them. Free from the doubt that holds back their ambition. and thus boy meets girl. It's kind of a romance built on the bonds they made with knights, but it also shows that they have grown to where they don't need knights anymore, and they can live on and overcome their doubts together. The final shot of the game reveals that Knights is still alive, because you see, Knights may be gone from Claris and Elliot's dreams, but as long as nightmares continue to exist in the hearts of others, Knights will always exist to stop them and help those lost in the darkness to overcome their self-doubts. That is the true meaning and existence of Knights. Originally, Claris was supposed to have a separate level for her final dream, instead of sharing it with Elliot, called Spiral Claris, but after seeing how the story would unfold, Iizuka decided having them on the same stage was already perfect for the story, and though I would want an extra stage, or one more dream, or some more dreams in general, I can definitely see how this was the perfect choice in the game, because seeing them together finally both overcome their doubts and struggles was more impactful than having them go at it alone. It was kind of built up to this in the first place, since they both relied on Knights at the same time. Alright, the main game's done. So, let's get into the actual Christmas stuff. The most obvious Christmas trait of Knights has to be Christmas Knights. Originally a demo disc of Knights that changes the game aesthetic depending on the season, with the biggest change occurring during Christmas. It even has its own story to go along with it. The giant Christmas tree in Twin Seeds is missing its giant star, so Claris and Elliot team up with Knights to bring the star back. This will make more sense later on, but for now, let's see what changes were made. To start off, they completely reskinned Spring Valley to make it more Christmas themed, with even idea captures being Christmas trees. The level design remains the same, but so much of the background elements have changed that it feels like a whole new experience. There's even new music here as a nice take on Jingle Bells. Only Spring Valley is in this demo, sadly, but I guess that's why it's a demo. But it does bring the spirit of the festive season. Gilwing, the boss, even gets reskinned as well, and gets his own boss theme remix, which is one of the best songs in the entire game. Man, the composer went in. After completing the dream, Knights, Claris, and Elliot saved the star, but it turns out it was all a dream, though both Claris and Elliot had the same dream, and I guess that takes place after the main game, so I also guess that Knights can still watch over them, which is kinda nice. But to continue, Claris and Elliot meet up and share Christmas night with each other, and that's it. There's nothing special here like the main game, but it does represent the Christmas spirit well. And there's way more to this demo than just the Christmas level. After beating the dream, you can unlock presents, so you have to keep completing Spring Valley over and over again until you get all of the presents. That's a good reason to keep people playing a one-stage demo. The presents aren't small either. There are some cool features here like a Nightopian collection, sound test, and some artwork. Some of this stuff is not even in the regular game, including probably the most notorious feature of the demo, Sonic into Knights. Yep. You know I'm going to force him into the video somehow, again. But this was a big thing at the time because Sonic didn't have a full 3D game that was a platformer, so this was his first experience to play as him in full 3D in a platformer-like game. Yeah, Nights is considered an action platformer, even though there's technically no platforming because you're flying around. Don't question it, that's just what the devs said. Anyway, he controls like a faster Claris and Elliot, which means it's not gonna feel like a Sonic game, rather a Sonic skin. But still, it's a cool bonus, and even has a unique boss fight that's a reskin of Puffy, except it's Eggman. Now that's rad. The last big conclusion is the ability to play as Riala. It's also a Knight skin, but playing as the main rival is cool enough, and it makes sense since Riala already acts similar to Knights in the main game, at least in battle style. You can unlock this through the presents or by playing on April Fool's Day. Riala is also playable in the multiplayer mode, but I never got footage of it because I don't have another controller for my Sega Saturn. It's strange that some of this stuff didn't make it into the base game, like reality and playable, but I guess if it did, this demo wouldn't be so special. Nowadays, all we have is limited betas for demos, but Nights all the way back in '96 would set a brand new standard for what a demo could offer and also bring in the festive spirit. Now, the sad part about this is that while Christmas Nights is on the HD versions of the game, it does not include some of the presents, including Sonic into Dreams, which is a major bummer. The other stuff is there, but that's missing, and to this day I don't know why. So if you want to play that, you have to go hunt down that original demo disc, which can be fairly expensive unless you get the Japanese version, which is what you should go with because hey, that's a cheaper version on the Saturn, and the Saturn and Japanese import's cheaper. Anyway, back to the festive spirit. We're gonna wrap
involved. The biggest thing for me was wanting to create a game world for Nights that would be as close as possible to bringing out the feel of an actual dream world. That's one of the things I like most about Nights, is the fact that, as far as I can think of, Nights might be the only game character that a person could ever actually really meet. I really like the idea that fans might look forward to the chance of possibly meeting the real Nights whenever they go to sleep at night.
I think what really makes Nights a Christmas game, besides the Christmas demo, is its representation of dreams itself. I mean, we always dream about gifts and presents, right? But in all seriousness, I feel Nights represents the act of giving to others, like giving an ass whooping in the Wiseman. Alright, for real now. Nights is very similar to most Christmas media, in which it's less about the holiday spirit and more about the lesson that can be learned within the reason of Christmas itself, overcoming our own self-doubt and facing our greatest fears head on, despite how horrifying it may be. That's what I think Nights represents as a concept, what the developers at Sonic Team wanted to get across when making this, well, masterpiece. And isn't that really what Christmas is about? I mean, Nights does help others live a better life for themselves, much like how we gift other presents that make their lives better, whether it's games, toys, or books, or even undies. Hey, you gotta have something to wear. You know, one of my favorite movies, and really my favorite Christmas movie, is The Polar Express. Near the end of the movie, after visiting Santa after a long journey, our protagonists receive a ticket of what they learned over the journey. And Chris, or Hero Boy, the main protagonist, gets the word believe punched in his ticket, which meant multiple things, like believing in Santa, believing in the Polar Express, but most importantly, believing in himself, which, as we see here, is the most important thing when tackling the nightmares that haunt us. And Nights is the one who gives that gift of strength to the player to overcome that doubt. And in a way, it really does embody the spirit of Christmas, like the Polar Express with its lesson. To believe, which is something I always say on this channel, I think is why Iizuka even said that they wanted Nights to be someone you could see in your dream, someone that you believed in, but would also help you believe in yourself. I know it got a little mushy there at the end here, but that's how I feel, or what I feel embodies a big part of Christmas, and why Nights in the Dreams is a Christmas game. And not only that, but why it's the best Christmas game. Folks, I hope you're having a great holiday. I want to release this as a special for Christmas, so you guys have something to enjoy during the holidays, but I also want you guys to enjoy what you have for the holidays, whether it be family, friends, or the things you have, the things you're gifted, What are things you want to give to others? I'm personally older now, and I really want to give stuff to others rather than just receiving gifts myself. And that's just a part of, kind of, it's the Christmas spirit cycle. When you get older, you want to give gifts. When you're younger, you want to get gifts, stuff like that. But I hope you guys are having a good Christmas and you guys enjoy what you have, because it really is a special time of the year. Even if a lot of things are down right now, you just gotta believe and keep trying, because like I said in the video, sometimes stuff's gonna haunt you. Those fears, those doubts are gonna haunt you, or the scary. It's so scary to overcome them, but you just have to overcome them. And hey, if you ever get scared, you can always dream of nights. Anyway, guys, Merry Christmas. Hope you guys have a damn good one. And always remember, you better believe in yourself.
Yeah.